Now batting for the Lions, sporting a batting average of .358, number 11, the first baseman, Ray Feigal.
All right. I can't tell you how glad I am that that ball did not head straight into the fans right there. My brother actually offered me $10 if I could hit him, but I decided against that, so. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Ray Feigal. Over the last few years, I've watched many senior projects, and I've always thought to myself, as many of you students may be thinking right now, I have absolutely zero idea what to do for my senior project. As the time to decide neared last spring, the only thing I knew was I wanted to make a physical project, to have a tangible representation of all the hard work I put into it. Now, I've played baseball since 4th grade. I've always loved baseball, and I've always loved baseball bats. My favorite magazine growing up was Baseball Express, an equipment magazine, which I would read through the bat section diligently. I knew the differences between the bats, and when a new bat came out, I was extremely excited. Perhaps far more excited than most would be. Before the summers of 2 full baseball schedules, my family used to go camping quite often. On one particular trip, my brother and I cut branches off of a tree, and we used our pocket knives to whittle them down into baseball bats. We even taped the handles and used them to hit rocks. So, here is the first bat I made, which you can see in the atrium. So, when the idea of making wood baseball bats for my senior project was presented to me, I knew it was a perfect idea. It was a physical project, it was something I loved, and it was something I had no idea how to do. When I decided I made 4 wood baseball bats for my senior project. When I decided to do this, I decided I wanted to know more about baseball bats. So the first thing I learned, and the first thing to know, is that baseball bats are not stiff objects. In fact, they flex back and forth when you hit the ball, as you can see here. As anyone who's ever played baseball before knows, you want to hit the ball on the sweet spot of the bat, right here, in about a 4-inch section that will give you the longest hit and the least amount of vibration in the hitter's hands. For you physics folks out there, the amount of vibration in the bat is dictated by the amount of oscillation, or the flexing back and forth of the bat as it hits the ball. Up here, the oscillation is dictated as a wave. Where the wave is widest is where the most vibration occurs, and where the wave crosses itself is where the oscillation cancels out and there's no vibration. This is called a node. As you can see here, the node of the first wave running through the bat and the node of the second wave running through the bat create this sweet spot of very little vibration zone. As you travel further away from those nodes, the oscillation grows higher, as does the vibration, until you reach the antinode. The antinode on a baseball bat is in the very center of the bat and at the end of the bat. When a ball is contacted at these points, or even near these points, the vibration will be so much it can hurt the hitter's hands and even break the bat, like here. A lot of wood baseball bats break because the ball is hit too close to the center of the bat. So my original plan with this project was to make about 15 baseball bats and to donate them to players who cannot afford them. Unfortunately, after seeing the high cost of those materials and realizing how busy I would be over the summer with my baseball, I decided to scale it back and make 4 baseball bats. The first step in the process was finding a mentor. After doing some research, I discovered that Davy Jones Bat Company, a company I'd actually used before, made their bats in Broomfield, Colorado. I contacted them, and they got back to me and agreed to work with me. Dave Jones, the man who makes the bats at Davy Jones Bats, agreed to be my mentor. I scheduled times with Todd Trombley, who works at Davy Jones, and I got to work with my mentor, Dave Jones. So, at this point, I will unveil my bats that I made. And here they are. So the first step in making a wood baseball bat is choosing a billet, or the long piece of wood that will become the bat. In our case, for all 4 bats, we used ash billets. And because the billets we had were rectangular, we first had to make them into octagonal cylinders on a 45-degree table saw, and then round it on the lathe. The next step is what Dave calls strip mining the billet, in which the diameter of the billet is decreased about a ½ inch every 2 inches or so in a stair-like fashion, creating the first sign of that tapered bat shape. Then the bat is roughed out by hand into the profile, and then the exact profile of the bat is created. Now, each bat profile is dictated by precise diameter widths at each 16th of the bat length. So the next step was to divide the bat length into 16 equal parts, and at each 16th, to turn a stripe, about a ½ inch stripe, into the bat, using a caliper to measure the precise and specific diameter at each spot. So at this point, you have a bat with 16 stripes that are the exact diameter. So then you smooth the spots in between the stripes into the final bat profile. Then the bat is weighed, which dictates whether or not you need to take more wood off to decrease the weight. And then the bat is sanded with 3 different grits of sandpaper, ranging from rough to fine. First while the bat is spinning slowly on the lathe, and then while the bat is still. All the steps so far went into all 4 bats we made. After this, we went a couple different directions with the bats. The next step, for the CG1 and the P157 over here, was to take about a 4-inch section of a real animal femur and rub it into the barrel. First while the bat is spinning, and then while the bat's still. This hardens the wood. The next step for those bats is to take 2 torches and to heat the barrel. This draws any resin pockets within the barrel out to the surface and actually strengthens the core of the bat. The step instead of this for the KR5 and the BMF was to apply red paste to the barrel, letting the paste dry, and then sanding it smooth. The red paste that is in the deep grains of the ash wood will stay there, and this creates a smooth glass-like barrel after the finish and paint goes on. Then the next step for the KR5, the bat over there with the stained handle, was to stain the handle with mahogany wood stain. And then all the bats except for the CG1 were taped off at the midpoint and painted while spinning on a lathe. Then I left my bats with Dave, and he put his custom Davy Jones labels on them and his custom finish on. The bats are then cupped when a wide drill bit takes a scoop of wood out of the end of the bat. This will decrease the wood at the end of the bat, decreasing the weight at the end of the bat, and make the swing faster. Then the knobs of each bat are printed with the date, the length, the weight, and other important details, like my initials, of course. So, at this point, I'll talk about each bat that I made. The first bat we made is called the CG1. It's named after Carlos Gonzalez, the left fielder for the Colorado Rockies. A lot of wood bat companies will claim to give you the exact profile of a specific Major League player. But Major League players are only concerned about the performance of their bats. They don't care about the durability. They buy tons of bats each year. Wood bat companies selling the bats to high school students will probably care a little more about the durability of their bats. They're not giving their bats to players who are paid to perform well. So they might take some liberties and actually change the profile. Unlike those companies, Davy Jones will give you the exact profile. This is the exact bat profile that Carlos Gonzalez swings. It has a really steep shoulder where it tapers really quickly to the thin shaft on the bat. Many bat companies might add more wood here, which will keep it from breaking at that antennode, but will also get rid of that end-loaded whippy bat effect. The next bat we made, the KR5, is actually my favorite bat. This bat has a really unique profile. Unlike most bats, it's actually slightly thinner here at the end of the bat than it is in the barrel. The idea behind this is that decreasing the amount of wood at the end of the bat will make it swing faster without compromising the barrel. This bat is named the KR5 after Kevin Russo, who attended Fairview High School and now plays for the New York Yankees. This bat, the BMF, is the same profile as the CG1, just beefed up quite a bit. This is a huge bat. It's almost 33 ounces, which is really heavy for bats. It would probably be impossible to use in a game. I was told by Dave that I could draw my own conclusions of what BMF stood for, so I will let you draw your own conclusions as well. The last bat we made is the P157. This bat's a pretty standard profile and is a little bit bigger than the Mizuno profile that Todd Helton swings for the Colorado Rockies. So once again, these are the bats that I made. All right, so this project went extremely well until about 3 or so weeks ago when I took a quick weekend trip down to Pueblo for a baseball tournament. Like any good student, I took all of my schoolwork along with me to do his homework over the trip, and I finished all my homework due Monday, Saturday night. Unfortunately, Sunday morning, all of that homework was stolen out of our car, along with my laptop, which had my entire senior project on it. So that was the biggest challenge of this project. By some stroke of luck, my storybook, which contained most of my project as well, was not in my backpack. So I was able to piece together my project once again, save a few things missing here or there. So, in conclusion, this project was an awesome project. It was a perfect decision. I love the bats that I made very much. If I ever saw one break, I would probably cry right there. Which is why I'll probably never ever use one, because I break a lot of bats, as my parents and their checkbooks know. Davy Jones Bats was a perfect place to do my project. About a half hour away from my house, some of the nicest bats that I've ever used are being made. Dave Jones himself was an awesome mentor. He's a bat master who knows most of the profiles in his head and doesn't even need a cheat sheet most of the time. In fact, I even bought a bat from him recently, this white bat that you saw earlier. And it's one of the nicest wood bats I've ever used. I use it in all my wood bat games. And it also looks great, which is very important when you're on the baseball field. Over the course of this project, I learned how to make wood bats. I learned how much work goes into all those bats that I crack, and I gained a new respect for the equipment that I use. I'd like to start off by thanking Davy Jones Bat Company for allowing me to come in to use their facilities. It was perfect. Dave Jones himself, my mentor, he was awesome. Whenever I would come in, he would be working on bats that he was paid to make, and he would put them down and give me 2 or 3 hours giving all his attention to me and my project. And I know that's a lot to ask from a professional company, so I'm very grateful. I'd also like to thank Todd Trombley. I don't know if he's here either, but he also works at Davy Jones Bat Company, and he was the man I always talked to and who scheduled, and I want to thank him for being so supportive and enthusiastic as well. Then, of course, I have to thank Joan for all the work she put in, for understanding that my process journal is somewhere in Pueblo. I don't know where it is. And then I have to thank Dave as well for helping us with our PowerPoints and the technical side of things, and for also giving me that sweet introduction. So, thank you. That's my senior project. Any questions? Yes.
I was going to ask you the BMF question.
Sure. Mr. Blair asked me what the difference between aluminum and wood bats are, and which I like better. Aluminum bats they actually perform better. I prefer them because I break a ton of wood bats. Like, it's unreal how many bats I break. So if I have an aluminum bat, it's not going to break. Actually, I did break mine, but it's probably not going to break. So that's why I prefer them, and it hit the ball farther. Wood bats, The wood bat that I bought is actually part composite. It has a sleeve on it, and so it is almost as good as a metal bat. It just doesn't hit the ball quite as far. So when I am allowed to use a metal bat in league play, it's not a wood tournament, I prefer using a metal bat. Yes. How many bats do I take to a game, and why would I take all the bats to the game? I usually take like 3. I have my metal bat I always have in my bag, but I don't use it in the batting cages because I don't want to break it. And then I have a game wood bat, which would be this one. And then I usually also take a wood bat to use in the batting cages. I have one made out of bamboo, which is pretty durable, but it doesn't perform as well. So I take that for batting practice. So I usually have about 3. Yeah. Anyone else? Yes.
How long does it take you to make a bat?
The question was, how long does it take me to make a bat? Usually about a 2 or 3 hour session I would go in. We would usually finish about 1 bat, and I would end up leaving it. I wouldn't get to take it home, but we would work for about almost 3 hours straight on a bat, and then I would leave it, and he would put his Davy Jones labels on it. So yeah, maybe about 3 hours. Yes, Bridget? My question is, what are my plans for next year? My plans for next year are to go to college, and I'm going to go to college wherever I can play baseball, which is probably going to I'm applying to schools in Minnesota and also Texas as well. All right.